the world of education is much different now than it was, almost 3 decades ago. Like a safe environment where you can ask questions, or as you just said, ask multiple.
We're helping students find grit and being able to push forward and push through things that might be happening that have nothing to do with academics.
It's okay to make a mistake. It's okay to make a lot of mistakes and then try to work through them and to learn it.
I think we're able to really focus in on the student as an individual and what works or what doesn't work for them.
If you're looking for a place that's, offering flexibility and not the traditional sitting in rows and that type of stuff, that's just not working for somebody's, for their children, then I think we are a great option and a high quality option. Good afternoon. My name is Dr. Flannery, and I am the CEO here at 21st Century Cyber Charter School. I'm in my 5th year with the school in this role. I'm in my 28th year overall in the world of education. So I have not always been in this cyber educational place. Most of my career has been spent in traditional brick and mortar settings. Like I said, about 5 years ago, I was approached with this opportunity to, possibly come on as the CEO. And quite honestly, at that point, I didn't know a whole lot about cyber education and about cyber charter schools. So I was intrigued by the idea of it. And, lo and behold, here I am 5 years later. Happy that I made the move. I've learned so much over the past 5 years, not just about this cyber world, but the continuing evolution of education in general. Like I said, I've been doing this for, 28 years, 28 plus years actually. And, the world of education is much different now than it was, almost three decades ago. We have 2 locations, actually. We serve students all throughout the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. We have a location in Westchester, so, the eastern part of the state of Pennsylvania, and then also out in Murraysville, which is in the western portion of our state. Right now, we have about 900 students that come to us from about 260 different school districts. So it's a pretty wide range of where our students come from all throughout the state. Our school looks different than what I think most people would think of. I went to a brick and mortar school. I'm sure people listening or watching, did the same. You get up, you walk through the doors in the morning, you go to a classroom, you're sitting in rows of desks and all those types of things. Well, our environment here is different. We still are providing a top-notch education for kids in grades 6 through 12. We're just doing it in this cyber world. In other words, the students, they might be sitting at home. They might be at their kitchen table. They might have their bedroom, a desk in there. I mean, they might go to a local library, anywhere that they have, an internet connection. And that's how they are receiving their education. Obviously working with our teachers. We have a great staff here, who really works hard to keep our students engaged and to build relationships with them. Additionally, we have positions called AAs and TAs, so academic advisors, and then teacher advisors as well, and the purpose there is to build communication, to build relationships, because it can be different because you're not seeing the student in front of you like you would, again, like in a traditional classroom. So it's so important to build those relationships, to reach out so that each student that comes here has some different people that they can reach out to for questions. It could be about their subjects. It could be, simple stuff like, hey, I don't really know how my laptop, it's not working well. Who do I talk to? And on and on. So, it's education. Like I said, a rigorous education. It's just in a different delivery than what many of us would probably remember from our time being in school. So a question I get asked often is, what exactly is a cyber school or a cyber charter school? And it's a fair question. It's a good question. So I guess if you think about your traditional brick and mortar school, going into a classroom, desks are all in a row. So I think that's probably one image that people have in their heads. We have students here, they are just not campus. The teachers meet with them every day via their laptops, their iPads, be it a phone, phone calls, those types of things. So our students are present, so to speak, but they're at their own location, be that their home, be that, they might have a little desk area set up in their bedroom. They might go to a local library or somewhere like that. Whatever works best for them and whatever area is most conducive to them and learning and growing. So the rigorous education is still there. The challenges that we try to have with our students and trying to meet all of their different needs, it's all still there. It's just presented differently, and the kids can do the work kind of at their own time. We may have students who are busy all day long because of work, because of training commitments, be it for the arts, be it for sports or something like that, and that's fine. And then they can do their they can do their schooling at night, in the middle of the night, late evening, whatever works for them. So I think this environment really provides a lot of flexibility and a lot of opportunity in a sort of non-traditional setting. I think a myth, or maybe perhaps a misconception about this cyber world, is that, because my son or daughter is not face to face with a teacher, their education is not going to be as good. The quality is not going to be there, and that's just not the case. Our teachers are really engaged with the students and almost have to make an extra effort to make sure that the students are engaged, because they are not right in front of them in the traditional sense. So I think that's important for families or for anybody curious about cyber ed to realize that the quality is here, the rigor is here in the cyber world at 21st century. I think that's important. I would be a little biased to say that we believe that we deliver the best education and educational opportunities in comparison to other cyber charter schools or any sort of online schooling. Because I think, first of all of our teachers are PA certified teachers. That's not always the case at other schools, and many of them have advanced degrees. We're also an Apple distinguished school, which takes a lot of work to make and a lot of professional development, which is great because it helps our teachers constantly learn and grow, and then in turn be able to pass that on to their students. So again, all the opportunities are here for students who are motivated to learn, and even ones that are maybe not so motivated to learn. Our teachers do such a great job of getting them motivated and getting them engaged in their studies. So our mission here at 21st Century, and we talk about this a lot, any of our decision making, in any of our meetings, it always comes back to kind of the same question: what is best for the student or students in general? And that guides so much of what we do, our curriculum, our finances, our spending. What is best for the students of 21st century? If I gave you a quick little 30-second, I guess, elevator speech, I would say that we have a rigorous curriculum. We provide flexibility to fit a student's schedule and what's going on in their lives. As I said, all of our decisions are focused on being student centered. So we're very interested and very cognizant of the fact that each kid is different. Each student that comes to us is going to learn differently, just as we do as adults. And because we strive to get to know them and build relationships with them, that's very helpful in trying to meet their needs as a learner, and their needs as a person as well. Because it's not just about the academics. We're also trying to help them grow as individuals, as they're, some come to us in 6th grade and stay with us all the way through 12th grade. And seeing that growth and that progress is, really what every educator loves to see and really strives to provide. You want kids to do well academically, but we want this to also be a safe place. Students come to us for a wide variety of reasons, and we want them to feel safe in this learning environment, safe to take chances, safe. It's okay to make mistakes, that we'll work together to help correct those mistakes and learn from those mistakes. And to also be respected. They're young learners, just as I may be an older learner, but it's so important to have that respect and that mutual back and forth, and to feel connected. That's a basic human, kind of a human element there. We all want to feel some connection, and those are things built into our mission and our vision. Those are things that are important to me and important to our entire staff. Looking ahead, I think we face challenges in this environment just as every school does, regardless of how the education is shared or delivered. I think so many students are comfortable in this in this computer age, and we're well into it. I'm not acting like that's something new, but I think just seeing them, knowing I'd said earlier about being comfortable, I think it can really bring out the best in our students. It can help them reach their full potential. We, as a staff, as an administrative team, and as teachers, we've not been afraid to look at ourselves, and I say that through different audits that we've had, curriculum audits, special ed audits. If we didn't want to grow, if we didn't want to get better, we wouldn't do those things, because sometimes the info that you get out of those audits, out of those reports, can be, a little tough love, if you will. It's not always stuff you want to hear, but it's information that you need to hear. And what we've done with any of that information is take it and say, okay, what's our plan moving forward? How can we constantly refresh our curriculum? How can we constantly challenge our students? As far as special ed, there's so many different needs that need to be met, and our special ed departments, our student services department, they do a great job trying to meet so many different needs. But I think in order for us to move forward, have had to kind of take a few steps back to kind of say, where are we now? What do we need to improve upon? And then really focus on doing those things, not just say it and keep moving forward. It doesn't always move at a really rapid pace. And I know everything in today's society is now everything happens so quickly. That's not always the case here, because it takes time, and you want to develop engaging lessons, proper lessons, and you want students to be challenged. So again, I think by taking a few steps back, I think it's lending itself to some exciting things moving forward, more challenges, and being able to meet the ever-changing needs of the students in this ever-changing world. For the next portion of this podcast, I know I've talked often about students here at 21st Century, but I think it's important to also hear about our students from one of our teachers. I mean, as an administrator, you'd always like to be like, oh, I'm the most important person in this building, in this school. The most important people are teachers, and that's any school, and anybody who ever loses sight of that fact, that's not the way it should be. So in saying that, I thought it would be important to have one of our veteran teachers join us today. Brittany Bill is a social studies teacher. She's also a leader amongst our teachers here. And I think that she would be able to lend, obviously, a different perspective working with students each and every day, and having done that here at 21st Century over the course of several years. So as I said, I wanted to introduce and have somebody else join our podcast. So I'm glad that Brittany Bill is joining us. Brittany is a veteran teacher here at 21st Century Cyber Charter School. In addition to being a social studies teacher, I would say she's also definitely a leader amongst the teachers, and brings, many years of experience. I'll be careful there. I said many years of experience with a veteran teacher, but I guess before I get myself in trouble, Brittany, I'll turn it over to you. Why don't you tell us a little bit about maybe your journey here at 21st Century?
Yeah, and thank you for having me. So as Dr. Flannery said, my name is Brittany Bill. I'm a government economics teacher here at 21st Century, and this was actually my first teaching job. So I did a little bit of subbing in a brick and mortar school, and I started here as a teaching assistant for a few months. And then I started my social studies teaching job, and I've been here ever since. It's a great school, and I think over time, as Dr. Flannery said, I've gotten more involved and, joined different committees and tried to kind of make my mark in certain areas to try to improve and change things with the times, as our school says, with 21st century just moving forward.
Brittany, with the mission here for 21st century, I'm not going to read it out to people, but I think the essence of it is being student centered. For us as the staff, being student centered. Do you find that? I guess, do you find that to be the case? And if so, like, how do you, I guess, go about your daily work in keeping the focus on the students, on the kids?
Yeah, I mean, I think at our school we just have such a unique position because we're not a, bell to bell system where, every 40 minutes or so I have a whole group of students coming in and out of my classroom. And because of that, I think we're able to really focus in on the student as an individual and what works or what doesn't work for them. And, throughout our time, I might make a cool connection with the student over a TV show that they like. And that kind of makes our, working together a little bit easier for them because they see me kind of as a human and not just their government teacher. And, we can build off of interests with those students, and that gets them more engaged. And then, they're going to be working on different assignments and working with different teachers and learning the content. And I think that aspect of it has really helped our students, thrive and just really grow as they're learning and going through the educational process.
I know I talked about it a little bit earlier, and again, I thought it was so important to have you join us. And I talked about the importance of the teacher student relationship on a day to day basis. During your time here, uh, is there a student, or maybe even students, like success stories that pop to mind when you think about the students that you've worked with in your time here at 21st Century?
Yeah, so obviously being here as long as I have, I've had just a couple students, but they all have to take government, right? It's, they have to take it to graduate. It's a graduation requirement. So every student essentially is going to go through my class. And I've seen some really awesome students who have thrived academically, but I've also seen students who come here and maybe it's their last chance, it's their last hope. And I've had one particular student comes to mind who graduated a few years ago. I still talk to her, and she will randomly bring up, if we're talking and catching up, of how mean she was to me the first time that we talked. And she said, "You kept calling." And she had some struggles getting to graduation, and because there was some, background stuff going on. And we kind of worked together throughout her entire high school career, and she graduated. And when she graduated, she wrote me this letter. I still obviously have it. And she said she didn't think she was actually going to make it to her 18th birthday. So it wasn't even just about graduating itself. Like, that wasn't even a mindset that she had as a goal for herself to accomplish. It was making it to 18. And so she's constantly just a reminder to me that our students obviously are here to get an education, and we want them to succeed, and we want them to graduate and to pass Algebra 2, and that's important. But ultimately, we're helping students find grit and being able to push forward and push through things that might be happening that have nothing to do with academics. And I just will always remember her as part of that and apply it to when I'm working with students, because there is stuff going on that, we need to be aware of and to help them work through it, on top of the academic piece.
Well, speaking of a student like that and others, I'm sure if you had enough time to kind of think about it and write out names and all that type of stuff, I'm sure there would be, many, many more stories like that. What what about those students? I guess what skills, what personal traits do you think help them be successful here and there in this environment? And what would you want them to be able to pass on to other students and say, hey, if here's a couple of things that if you do these, there's a good chance you could be successful in this cyber environment?
It's a good question. I think it differs for a lot of students and like what they're comfortable with, but I just think being open, right? I mean, knowing that we are reaching out and we want to work with you, we want to help you in any way that we can. And I think that's across the board with 21st Century is, you know, as a whole school, we are wanting to help not only each other, like our coworkers, our other teachers, but also the students and the families. We are always connecting with them as much as possible. So just being open to those conversations, don't be scared. I know for me personally, I was that student in high school that maybe asked a few too many questions on how to do math. And I felt like I was like the annoying student because I just didn't get it at the time. And so I always try to tell students, like, just ask the question. And it's my job to explain it. And if I explain it a way that doesn't make sense, then it's my job to then try to explain a different way that does make sense. So just being open and realizing that we care. And I think that that's just setting the foundation, and then everything else after that can fall into place.
I sort of alluded to that a little bit earlier when we were talking about, why students may come here. And I said, well, or what we're trying to provide. And I said, well, a safe environment. And I said, safe can be like, hey, you obviously think about being bullied and those types of things. But I also said, like a safe environment where you can ask questions, or as you just said, ask multiple questions. But also not to be, it's okay to make a mistake. It's okay to make a lot of mistakes, and then try to work through them and to learn. And I think that's a lot of what the people here try to do: provide a safe environment to learn. But we all know a lot of ways that you learn is you got to make mistakes, you got to fall down a little bit, so to speak, and then get back up. And it's great to have teachers who help kids do that, teachers like yourself. So I had mentioned that earlier. Just thought that was an important part of education, an important part of our school.
Yeah, and that I made the connection to my background as well as a student. I always try to remember that because I know the farther away I get from high school, the more it might, become a little blurry. But I just think, math itself, right? You might be in a brick and mortar school, you have to move on, right? You're pushing through that curriculum, and we have the opportunity where, okay, I'm struggling on this week's assignment, and last week, I just kind of missed this concept. And we have the ability to go back with those students and work with them one-on-one to make sure that they really understand something while they're, pushing forward through the work and through the quarter. And I think that's always a really nice thing that we have available for students.
I talked a little bit earlier about different audits. We were talking about, some transparency type things, saying, hey, over the past couple of years, we've had, curriculum audits done, special ed, and those types of things. And I said some of it was, some of it's hard to hear sometimes because you always want to be like, oh, you guys are the best, blah, 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 until you have these types of reports. But I said it was a matter of getting info and in some cases taking some steps back in order to take, hopefully, steps forward, in the coming year or years. Where do you see, or where do you hope 21st Century is in the future? If you're talking to kids saying, this is where I think we're going, or where I think we can go from your perspective.
Obviously, things are always changing. Technology is changing. I mean, any article you read, anything you look at is all AI. I hope that we just continue to focus on different career opportunities for students. I think right now we do that with like trying to see where students can go to like tech if they're interested in tech, and dual enrollment if they are interested in, going to college and university. I hope that we continue to look at what's going on, economically, the job opportunities, where we're headed, and trying to bring that into 21st century so that we can give students opportunities to explore future job opportunities that they're interested in. And I think we're doing a good job at that now, but I think we just have to keep evolving as we move forward because, the job market is ever changing. I mean, look at this, cyber school, even when I was in college, like that wasn't something that was discussed and now it's all over the place. So just staying on top of that, I think is important and something that I want to continue to do.
Collaboration comes up a lot. Obviously, collaborating with the teacher to student or colleagues or something like that. And I think I'd said I wanted to bring you on here because we kind of have a unique and for your unique perspective. But Brittany and I meet often. Brittany is our union president and as CEO. We talk often, and I don't want everyone to be like, "Oh, he only invited her on because they see eye to eye on every little thing." That's not always the case, and I don't mean that in a bad way. I think it's healthy, and I think we've had back and forth, and I guess my hope would be that both of us walk away always saying, "Okay, I don't agree with her, I don't agree with him, but anything that we've ever talked about, I've always walked away and say, well, she cares about kids. She wants to do what's best for kids. We may have different ideas of how to get there, but to me, that's always been, it's always been important. So I guess to kind of put it back on you, here at the school, do you see, I guess, a collaborative effort? And again, that doesn't mean agreeing with each other or agreeing with colleagues all the time or other administrators that you work with, but um, is that in place or as anything, is that still somewhat of a work in progress?
I think the one unique thing here is that all administration is available, right? Like something as silly as I'm walking into the building and you might be walking in ahead of me, right? And just, having that conversation. Like otherwise in a brick and mortar school, you would be in a completely different building and I would barely see you. I do think that at the teacher level, we are very much able to pick up the phone and call an administrator to talk about a problem or an issue or advocate for something that we want to see. I could pick up the phone and call, our director of student services, right? And I don't know if that is really something that would be available in a different setting. And I think administration, again, like I said, we might not always agree on everything, but I think teachers are constantly advocating for change and for things to help support our students. And we bring that unique perspective because we are, I always say like on the front lines working with students. And then administration brings that unique perspective of, the background. Like when you and I talk, you have that business aspect, which I'm not involved in, thankfully. We talked about math, we know. But then we also have to think about parents and other stakeholders and what their involvement is, which is something that maybe the principals are more thinking about compared to us. So I think, like you said, we might not always agree, but I think the conversations happen. And ultimately, we try to get to somewhere where everybody might not be happy, but we're at least content. And we are open to hearing ideas. And I think that's one thing that will never cease from the teacher perspective is having ideas of things that we can try or different things that we could be doing.
A little earlier, I asked you about what characteristics of a successful student in this cyber world. So if I flip it a little bit, what characteristics or what advice for, let's just say, a teacher, whether they're coming right out of college or they're looking to make a change, what do they need to know, or what characteristics would they need to bring to this cyber environment to be successful?
I would definitely say the ability to zoom out is one, to just try to be able to see like all aspects of what is going on. There's a lot of moving parts. So to understand that things take time, right? We're dealing with like actual tech and privacy and data. So you might find something that you want to use, but the patience aspect of that when implementing new technology. And, understanding that it takes time to learn some systems and to implement that. But I will say the one thing at least in our environment, that I will always say is we have the best coworkers, the best people who will always support you, and to be able to lean on people and ask questions. I know my first year here, I was asking a million questions of maybe where something was, how to do something, and everybody supports each other because they want you to be a successful teacher here at 21st Century. So those, I think, would be really the qualities or characteristics that you have. And, at this point, everybody knows how to use a computer. So I think you should have that skill down. But it might just take some time to get used to navigating and being able to use all of the programs, but it comes with time.
Where do you see yourself 5, 10 years down the road?
I mean, I don't have plans to leave, so I don't know if that's what you're looking for, but
No. I think you signed a lifetime
I
contract. I
do.
looked at it.
Yes. Yeah, I sign a lot of things. No, I don't have any thoughts about leaving. I like the position that I'm in currently. I do have my administration cert, so maybe I'll put that to use at some point. It's not out of the question. And I just don't feel like at this point I know enough, even if it's been 10, 11 years. I'm one of those people that I really feel like you got to put your time in as a teacher before you can become an administrator. So I think maybe that would be down the line, but 5, maybe more pushing 10, I would say maybe.
So Brittany Bill might think about coming over to the dark side of coming to administration. Oh, I should write that one down. Hopefully we've got this recorded.
One day.
I guess anything else that maybe we haven't talked about that, any questions I didn't ask or any things we didn't talk about that you think it's really important for people to know, about the cyber world, but, more specifically, we're much, more focused on us, here at 21st Century. Is there anything that you think is important for people to know, misconceptions that you think need to be cleared up, or like I said, excuse me, anything we didn't talk about here in this brief period of time?
Just think for families who are thinking about it or looking into it, just ask questions. You can reach out to our school and find out more information. And ultimately, you have to make the right choice for yourself as a student, for your family. And we are here to support that in any way that we can. I think sometimes cybers get a bad rap. It's different. I will say, I think from my perspective, I've found that we have gotten a lot more respect as educators, since COVID, since the pandemic. There's a little bit more understanding of what goes into our day to day and actually talking to students. And I think sometimes the biggest misconception is, students just go here, we don't know who they are. And that is one of the biggest lies, I think. We know our students, we know who they are, we make those connections with them, and we want to educate them just like any other teacher would.
Perfect.
I mean, I will say from talking to other cybers, they don't do that and they hate the curriculum that they buy and they can't change it a lot. So that's up to you.
We could talk kind of what you were just saying there, that, there are a few exceptions, but we try to, curriculum is developed here. And, sometimes we have to look for outside sources, in between time there. But I think I think that's important, that it's, again, designed, developed, improved upon, tweaks, and all those types of things. It happens here with our staff. And, I think we'd like everything to happen quickly. Like, hey, let's change up this course, and then 2 months, a month from now, it's done. It's just, it doesn't work quite that quickly. But again, we're worried about a quality product as opposed to something being, just kind of thrown out there. Like, Brittany, you had mentioned about like some third parties, they can put it together quickly and send it to you and you can use it. But is it really what's best? Is it really rigorous, or is it just, we'll just use it and kids will, check some boxes and go that way? And you may be able to speak more to that, maybe, kind of the differences of, I guess, self-produced, 21st century produced, as opposed to some third-party curriculum offerings that you may have experienced over the past 10, 11 years.
Yeah, and also I do have a little bit of curriculum background and writing curriculum, so that also helps. I do think creating it in-house is the best way to go just because we are able to make those tweaks, right? So it might take a little bit of a longer process sometimes to get a whole new course. But in the meantime, teachers and developers are working together to update material where we see fit. One example is government. I mean, we change all the time. We have, different people in power, and those updates need to happen. We need to have current events for our students, and not only within our class, but also within the lessons within our LMS, which is Schoology. And so being able to kind of update it as we go and say, oh, this happened, we really need to add this in and have students look at it, we have the ability to do that. And I think that's awesome and that's unique. And that's making sure that our students are getting, high quality curriculum and material that they need. And that's one thing I do like about us having our own curriculum team.
I guess, again, maybe another misconception is like our kids never see each other. Again, I think it's important for people to realize that our students do have that opportunity to get in touch. It's not maybe on a day-to-day basis, but there are a lot of opportunities. We have back to school picnic, field trips, which I'm sure you've been on a whole bunch of them and could probably rattle some off, but maybe some other things that you think would be important to share with anybody listening or watching us today, that they should know that there is, an opportunity. There's always going to be an opportunity for our students to interact face to face.
Just, recently even we had STEM day in the office, which was great. And so many students came, and I told students it was all science, and I said I was there for moral support. So to ask Mr. Bouguet if you had actual science questions. But I ended up talking to these two students, and they were awesome. They're in 10th grade, so I don't have them yet. They ended up getting my email address, and they come and visit me in our evening virtual office like every week now just to catch up and talk, which is awesome. But then they also asked me for other students' emails that were at STEM Day. So now they're all talking and they're all connecting, even if they're not in person. So, coming to these events is going to, help you build friends and those connections. And then on top of that, we have those field trips that you can meet up afterwards and meet your teachers. Last week we just had Cherry Crest, and I told one of my students to deliberately take wrong turns with Mr. Driscoll in the corn maze, and we would see if he ever got out. He did, by the way, so he's back. But I mean, even if you can't, I understand some of the limitations of where you are because, geographically Pennsylvania is pretty large. We have online clubs, so you can, join Geek Den and talk about anime and Dragon Ball Z, which I randomly will join. And then, we have Ambassadors Club, which I am in charge of with two other counselors and a teacher, where some of our students who have been here for a while, they will go into orientation and meet with new students and make connections and help them navigate learning online school and getting used to stuff. So we have a lot of ways that students can be together in person, but also online if need be. And our clubs, I think, since I've been here, I think now we have an esports club, which I don't even know really what happens in that. I'm going to be honest, but I think we do pretty well.
We seem to dominate in it, and I know we've played against other schools, and every time the results come back, it's like, yeah, we won. Whatever like dominating type score is, and I'm kind of getting out of my realm of expertise here, but whatever that may be, I'm always like, oh my gosh, sounds like we dominated them. They're like, we did. I'm like, good.
Great.
But yeah, it's another avenue. It's another thing for, kids who have those interests to get together and then, go beat up on some other cyber schools in a virtual world, of course.
Yeah, and I mean I hear they do great, but again, like I said, our clubs are growing. And then just another misconception I know is some people think that if their student comes to cyber school, they, can't play on a sport at their local district, which is not true. So if you are playing soccer or football, like you can still play on that team with your local district. So that's always something good to know, but lots of ways to connect and build friendships and yeah. Play video games, apparently.
Well, Brittany, I know we're coming to the end of our podcast here today, so thank you so much for taking time out of your schedule to join me. I thought it was really important that you come on and share a different perspective. Anybody listening, is there something that you would want them to take away from our conversation today?
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, I think I just want people to understand a little bit more about cyber school and what we're all about and how we are very student centered and focus on helping the student grow and just be successful. And maybe, you might hear some stuff about cybers, but to, just give it a chance yourself and see what you think. And that's it from my perspective. But what about you?
I think you had said early, ask questions. If you're out there and you're wondering, contact us, and ask questions to see if this environment would be a good one for for your son or daughter. Um, and it's about, if you're looking for a place that's, offering flexibility and not the traditional sitting in rows and that type of stuff, if that's just not working for somebody's, for their children, then I think we are a great option and a high quality option. Um, but I told him before, I said, I've been here, I'm on my fifth year. And I said, still learning things and still seeing how everybody works and the student centered thing. I think that's always, everything kind of comes back to that. Your decisions, my decisions, our school's decisions. It is really about the kids. And it's important that we don't ever lose that focus. So, you know,
Yeah.
similar takeaways, I think.
Thank you for having me. And it was nice, just kind of chatting about this. And other than that, go back to some grading and helping students in the VO.
Exactly. I appreciate you joining us today. And thanks to anybody out there who's watching us, listening to us. I hope you enjoyed this, and don't hesitate to reach out to 21st Century Cyber Charter School. You can find us at 21cccs.org and definitely check us out. It's a great opportunity. So thanks everyone.